Give it a moment. All right, we're live. Take it away, guys.
Welcome to the Portal to Ascension After Hour Party. I didn't know I was going to be able to introduce Laura Eisenhower, and I just, this is what these energies are all about, that when we surrender and let go with the flow, miracles happen, especially when our hearts are on fire. And after what was shared today in day one of this 4-day Portal to Ascension Summit, everything is so alive. My body feels like I'm just so activated from what was shared. And if you haven't seen the Ascension panel that happened at the end of today's presentations, please go find that. Neil is going to break that out so that we can have the Ascension panel go far and wide. We want every one of you to share it because it was so highly activating. There was so much wisdom there, and it's everything that we need right now. And Laura, I can't say enough about you. I feel like you and I were little sisters playing in the sand, holding hands, going into nature, climbing trees. Even though we didn't know each other as children, I feel like we did, because our bond is so strong and so deep, and we don't, our paths kind of wind like this. And I've even shared a bed with you when we roomed at Conscious Life Expo. And I am so grateful for the way that you stand in your sovereignty and in your truth, the way that you share your wisdom. You are on fire right now, and the world needs you. And I just applaud everything that you're doing, because I really don't feel like we'd get through this without you. And I hope you receive that and own that, and know that your tireless commitment to the evolution of humanity and to anchoring in this organic timeline is so deeply held and appreciated, and we're all holding you. And I know sometimes it's hard for you to hear all of these accolades that many people bestow upon you, and you're a human and an angel and a badass warrior queen, in my opinion. And I'm just lit up. I just have goosebumps. I feel like everybody here already knows you. I'm going to read your bio because I really feel like I want to anchor that in for anybody that shares this, because I feel like many people are starting to pop awake. And so there's been a lot of people on this ascension path that are finding, there are people that are popping awake that don't understand what an ascension path is. And so they're finding us. So there's a lot of people that are needing assistance right now. And I want to be able to read Laura's bio so that you can get a feel for who she is and what she's done. She's a global alchemist, a researcher, and a medical and intuitive astrologist. She is an internationally acclaimed speaker who has presented her work worldwide. Laura is the great-granddaughter of President Dwight David Eisenhower, and she reveals exopolitical information about his administration that has been largely held in secrecy. She is considered by many to be one of North America's leading researchers on health, exopolitics, alchemy, metaphysics, and galactic history. Laura works to free us from the 3D holographic time loop, false archonic systems, and military-industrial complex, and exposes hidden agendas so we can take our power back. Feeling a calling regarding her mission since she was a child, she has gained incredible insight through her wilderness adventures, psychic development, and has been connecting major dots about how to guide us into higher earth energies. She has a deep understanding of Gaia, Sophia, and our divine blueprint, and how they connect to the Venus transits, earth grids, global alchemy, DNA, and ET races. Her passion is to inspire unity consciousness and bring us back to the 0 point unified field, the totality of our divine powers. I love that bio, Laura. And I'm really excited that you're giving this presentation tonight, and we just locked in for this Tuesday, October 5th on Awakening Code Radio, my radio
I thought we were
program.
going to do the new moon on the 12th.
Oh, now you don't want to do it on the 5th?
Oh, no. Oh, whichever is better for you.
The new moon is this Tuesday going into Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And we'll still be carrying the energies because Portal to Ascension ends Monday night. So I'm
good on the 5th. Let's do that.
So we're going to, on Awakening Code Radio on kxfmradio.org, which is my radio show with Eric Rankin. We've been on the air since 2012. And we decided that Laura's going to come on for the new moon and talk about the Tree of Life template. I think this is really important. This will be at 8 p.m. Pacific time if you want to tune in, and you can find us on Awakening Code Radio. And Laura, I'm so excited to have you join us tonight to talk about aligning with the truth frequency, much needed right now. I love you.
I love you so much, Michelle. I trying to sort of hold it together right now. Feeling really moved to tears. And this whole week, I don't know, this whole last couple of years has been challenging for us all.
Yeah.
I processed a lot through my emotional body growing up. I was privy to a lot of the stuff that we're currently facing. And a lot of my material comes from those kind of downloads. Because, I mean, it's pretty activating, and the word activation takes on many forms, but it's very activating to, I don't know, I'm born into the Eisenhower family. What the hell does that mean? It's like, what is going on here? I don't feel political. I don't feel, and something else completely came through that I didn't expect, but it was so natural and familiar that it really assisted me in connecting a lot of dots. And then, of course, outside of how we relate to the ancestral inheritances, the collective inheritances, which are all connected, there's our own personal soul journey. And I just feel we're all family. I don't feel, oh, I'm a part of this family. I feel everybody's a part of this family and I'm a part of everyone else's family, without like being like, hey, can I sleep on your couch? And you want to, help me pay my gas bill? Well, some family members will do that, but it's not intrusive. It's the collective consciousness and the greater unified field. And so this particular presentation is focused on the truth frequency so that we can feel empowered to just be who we are instead of follow something outside of ourselves. And I just hope to inspire that level of empowerment and sovereignty. And what's interesting is what I present is something that I personally struggle with, even though it might be the dominating energy that I choose that. It doesn't mean that I don't, on a very constant level, go through the anguish and the turmoil connected to all these, kind of subjects. So should I just like jump into it? Are we ready to go?
You're so amazing. And I think we are. I think we're totally ready for this after hour party. You can kick it off.
Well,
okay, I'm going to turn my camera off. I love you. I know you're going to knock it out of the ballpark.
Oh, well, geez, I don't know about that, but I appreciate your confidence in me. And I love you beyond words. And it's incredible to be on this journey with you. I mean, we've known each other for so long and you're just an incredible sister and you're so profound in what you do and the light that you shine. So I'm just,
thank you.
No words. But really just emotional in a really happy cheer kind of way, just reconnecting. Okay. So I guess I'll put it on the share screen then, right?
Yep. And Laura, just to remind you, turn your volume down so we don't hear your notification bell. Yep.
Oh, those freaking notifications. All right. So I'm just going to do a little test with you guys.
And you got muted there.
Right. Okay. That's different. All right.
So yeah, your computer desktop audio. Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Hear you perfectly.
I won't be able to hear you, but tell me if you can hear me. Could you just hear me right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Uh-huh.
And I just want to do a test. I know you know what you're talking about. All right. So I'm going to turn this volume down. All right, everybody. Going to put the share screen on. And just give me a second. I mean, these are like friends I've had for so long, and I'm so grateful we're all, still together. And I'm really grateful and thrilled that, these are the kind of people that see who you truly are. Even if you're having like a difficult time, they're not going to hold it against you. Vice versa. Oh my God, right? All right. So real quick, I want to share what I consider just kind of a quick bio. A lot of the information that I've gained along the way really does have to do with my life experience and journey. And I think that is where it truly begins for all of us. But it's very easy to lose that when we go into, school systems. And if we retain any level of sovereignty and independence, sometimes it can be considered rebellious. Doesn't mean that if you follow along with some of it, that you're just being indoctrinated. It's just some kind of balance needs to be struck. And we need to protect future generations so that the indoctrination part of it is not there. And we can introduce more into the school systems, like the real practical and important skills. And also, what about our galactic history? What about the lost aspects of our history? So I know I'm sharing a lot in this first slide, but I always notice this in the school system. So they called it ADD, but I was off in libraries. I was listening to something else. I was paying attention to downloads. So I really was more aligned with my greater soul journey and realizing how energy and frequency works. I did get a degree in science, an associate's degree, and a lot of certificates in wilderness expedition leadership. And I also attended a clairvoyant institute for a couple of years. And just all the realizations and epiphanies along the way really helped me to kind of ground and anchor a lot of the information I share. And then I came across whistleblower testimony and, with the attempted Mars recruitment, it gave me a lot more of a foundation to see through some things, disinformation and truth. But I always emphasize that we need to first be true to ourselves to be able to discern what's coming in. And that was really important to me. And the wilderness journeys and that particular part of my path really helped me with that. Because you can't really run a false program when you're in nature. Nature's not going to let you get away with it. It doesn't want to punish or harm, but it's a part of our own higher self and soul energy trying to come through and say, hey. So I don't want to spend too much time on the slide, but cosmic mythology studies, galactic and medical astrology, and the I Ching is not in this, but that was a huge part of my life. Then I came across Keylontic science, Ashiana Dien, and some of my information and pictures come from Ascension Glossary. That comes from Lisa Renee. She's a really good friend of mine. We actually talked for 8 hours. Like, people don't even believe me if I would tell them, and I could screenshot it. And it's not even about that. I'm trying to prove anything, but her and I have been really close for a very long time. We put our heads together. And processing a lot of the grief, the turmoil, and I know a lot of us feel this way when you try and warn people of something and you're just kind of like laughed at. And I don't think she's the kind of person who could be laughed at because of the kind of website and developed articles that she has, but it's not even about that or taking it personally, but she's been very targeted and we're just, processing through. So it was really incredible to connect with her recently. And before I start, I just want to call out the fact that Portal to Ascension is hosting an event that Aginos, Neilgar, and myself sort of have been co-creating, but it's through the portal of Ascension. So it's funny because when you say it's through the portal to Ascension is actually the name of this portal, which is beyond anything you see on the web. And that's why the frequency of the words that Neil brings in always takes us beyond just like what's right in front of us. And what you just shared, Neil, I swear to God, I'm really trying to hold it together so I can do this presentation. So anyway, November, and just reconnecting with you, Michelle, and everybody else, but I don't know. All right. November 1st and 2nd, we're doing a conference, and that information you can find on www.portaltoascension.com. You can see all the speakers here. I could spend a lot of time just talking about each and every one of them, but just I encourage you to go there. And it's not a free event. I wish we could do everything for free, but we wouldn't be able to dedicate the time that we dedicate into the information that we pull together and the presentations that we pull together if we didn't have the ability to feed ourselves and have a roof over our head. And we're just not quite out of that system yet. But I can just safely say to everybody that whatever abundance I create that's beyond meeting the basic needs of my family is reinvested into creating healing centers and pulling together resources to, you know, help in this transition that we're in. All right, so I hope I didn't spend too much time on that, and some of this stuff people have heard before if you've heard my presentations, but it's got a little bit of a different twist. I just want to move the little bar out of the way here. Okay. So this world was once far less dense than it is today. And we were dealing with like galactic wars, we still are, cataclysms, and the collapse of the higher dimensional civilizations caused by exploding planets that rapidly changed everything. We were dealing with abuses of free will, hybridization, and the manipulation of incarnate consciousness and our DNA. And if we look at what's going on in the here and now, it's really not that much different. It's just taking on a new form. And it's similar to things like world wars. And the whole concept of false flags, isn't that an event that didn't occur and there weren't people that died or got harmed? But it's the story behind it that we need to question. What is the true story behind it? And what are the reasons for that story? And this is where we're really being played. A lot of well-intentioned people have put their lives on the line and have been, you know, harmed. But I feel the greater virtues of what they stood for speaks greater than being manipulated. And I'll take that right down into what we're dealing with in the here and now without saying too much, because I know we have to kind of be careful about what we share and the words that we use. But what about a well-intentioned person? And I'm not saying that everybody who's making choices right now isn't well-intentioned, but sometimes they're just doing something without thinking straight and then going against everybody else that doesn't think the same. And that's a little bit different. But yeah, there's a somewhat good intention, but when good intention isn't connected with the spirit realms or soul and unity consciousness and the appreciation of diversity, then all right, that's a programming. Some people are conscious and some people aren't. And when there's a programming, it can wreak a lot of havoc. And part of the awakening process is to deprogram. So this bar, every time I do a share screen, it doesn't let me remove it. But anyway, because of these dynamics that have taken place really much since the beginning of time in this free will universe, it has made it so much more difficult to maintain a multidimensional embodiment and connection to spirit, because all that has taken place while we're in physical form. In this profound winter period, we have the opportunity to return to these higher planes of existence. And as we talked about in the Ascension panel, it's not just about leaving the body, or, you know, if it was all about leaving the body, isn't that what death is? I mean, are we afraid of death? Why would we fear death if people attach to the concept of ascension as some sort of rapture? Is it just the idea that we leave the physical, but we're still in the physical and we go somewhere better? Well, that's going to happen. But the way it's explained can't be something that we gain from the outside in. We need to discover it from the inside to then be able to experience it externally. And it's not comfortable. It's not easy. And that's why a lot of people want to have a teaching, have somebody explain it. And I'm not really here to explain it. I don't have all the answers. But what I hold as an intention is, how can I share some things that will remind us of how much this matters, that we begin to fall back on ourselves more. And we don't shame or blame ourselves or others. We accept it as part of a greater initiation, and we cut ourselves a little bit of slack, or a lot of slack, that we're in a massive deprogramming right now. So I'm still going to see if I can move this little bar, but anyway, Artificial intelligence systems have been designed and weaponized and specialized for emotional and ultimately spiritual harassment. So that alone, we need to kind of think about, okay, what does that mean? So artificial intelligence systems are not just like some random technologist sitting outside, no, it streams through fake news, media, Hollywood, entertainment industry, which is pretty much the same, certain religions, the way we're raised, the multi-generational patterning that is passed down to our children and future generations. And that's not the AI part, but that's where the vulnerability of being infiltrated by AI exists, because there is a certain element to what we experience in society that is trying to groom and entrain individuals to be hospitable for AI. Lots of separation of loved ones throughout history because of world wars. And it's like, why were these world wars fought? And when a person starts to really go down the rabbit holes, and we're not just talking like just looking at a random internet site, but really going down the rabbit holes and understanding like this wasn't even about superiority of race. It wasn't really about this back then, or this particular war and what they said this was about. It was just about control. So there's a lot of excuses for certain genocides and holocausts. And it's pretty much hit every race that I can possibly think of, because the ultimate agenda is that we're not going to share codes and rebuild our DNA architecture. So certain genocides and holocausts have happened so that we can't share these codes and rebuild the architecture of our DNA. So if one race gets wiped out, we're not going to benefit from connecting with it. You know, ultimately, regardless of our outer appearance, we hold this greater architecture. And if we get caught up in outer appearances, we miss out on sharing these amazing codes. So if we don't recognize that diversity and harmony is oneness, and we look at it like there's a superior race or being or religion or belief system, that to me is the ultimate fragmentation away from true source. And we started to deal with like Anunnaki and lower creator gods when we started to move into that realm. Anyway, so emotional and spiritual energies get targeted and lowered. And all these different narratives and dynamics that we've dealt with for a really long time, I mean, really starting from the Lyran system, is a part of the experience of being on a free will journey that we can only reconcile and heal and win and claim victory within ourselves by going deep and going inward, and also matching it with being willing to look at stuff you wouldn't normally maybe want to look at because it wasn't presented to you in childhood. So it doesn't mean when you allow yourself to be exposed to it that you believe every word that you hear, but how can you balance it out with listening and hearing it and allowing it to activate your greater intuition so that you can find your truth frequency? And this is my only intention behind any presentation that I do. It's like, whether you believe in certain things or not has nothing to do with it. But what you can take away and what it activates in you is what matters. Because ultimately, when we reclaim the truth frequency, it's not about trusting and believing in something else other than what connects us with this source. And in these times right now, that is being attacked, where we are choosing fear and anxiety to the point where we give our power away instead of going through that initiation and facing those uncomfortable places to say, where within me do I have the answer? So as we notice in society, we don't have a lot of time to go through those dark night of the soul journeys. So we have to create the time, and we have to just give ourselves the space to dig deeper and look into all that. So if our consciousness is above how these systems try and drag us down into these lower energies and emotions, we embody the override frequency. And if other people are open to us, and they're not getting that direct download or connection, they can begin to realign and be like, oh my gosh, it's not because they're believing in something or giving their power away. It's because, wow, they were reminded that they're not unworthy. They don't not have the answers. They're not needing to adopt something in order to progress and ascend. It's really about you. It's really about you and our own process, how we connect with nature, source, and everything else. So the theme of this talk is all about the truth frequency. And how can we ever gain truth? By looking at, oh, well, I believe in the science. Well, that's a belief. What about your own science? What about your own biology? What about the things that make you tick? What are you passionate about? What inspires you? And what is the pain and distortions within your physical body trying to tell you? And if we don't clear the distortions in our own brain, it's going to end up manifesting in the physical, in our physical body. And to give our power away to the medical industry to solve it for us without realizing the connection between the emotional and spiritual and mental. Yeah, nobody gave us that in the educational systems. There are systems though, you know, people go and learn Chinese medicine and energy healing, and there are a lot of supplements and herbs that are more available than ever. So, you know, that's a huge breakthrough. And let's, you know, keep going with all that. So as most people know, media has an important role in spinning disinformation and targeting humanity in a mass mind control operation. It is directed psychological and emotional operation used against the public. It intends to incite people into violence and tell you how to think. It is used to derail important facts and cover up the news we need to hear in order to distract us and hook us in. Cosmic and natural law are encoded with our ability to create alchemy and transformation and mass healing. They constantly seek to fracture us, though, because they thrive on the negative energy. And I think a lot of people that are listening to this know this. I mean, how many times do you feel like you're doing well, then all of a sudden a trigger comes or somebody says this or that? And, you know, being vulnerable and sensitive is not the problem of it all, or being derailed by it, but how can we pick ourselves back up? And how are we allowing that feeling of being derailed or triggered? How much are we allowing it to start to move into the programming that we grew up with? A lot of clients I work with, you know, they've gone through an awakening, but when they're triggered, all of a sudden they're processing, you know, body shame or the dynamics between their parents, things that they've gone through in past lives, which we discussed in the Ascension panel. How can we look at that though and be honest with it so it doesn't rule us? Because very often it's very easy to act out. And AI is a system that is feeding on that to mimic those lower energies to create sort of an enslaved physical experience, which really is us doing it to ourselves. If we're allowing the most negative experiences and traumas and triggers to be a reality that is all that we see or is all that we agree to and comply to, of course we're not going to ascend. But when we ask ourselves, okay, I acknowledge this wound, this injury, this pain, this trigger, and this amplification of how much one notices the things that reinforce it versus the synchronicities and the things that help one to connect with their higher awareness and the ascension process. I mean, isn't that how we win the war? Is disengaging from one to embrace the other, not through denial or judgment, but through actually working through it and releasing it. I mean, if we're filled with toxicity from the food we eat, we can't just snap our fingers necessarily. Eventually, perhaps, but I mean, it requires a detoxing. So a lot of focus is on physical detoxing in this physical reality. What about on a spiritual level? Spiritual wounds, where religion or indoctrination messed with your spiritual energies and your sovereignty. What about the mental part of it, where you couldn't get an A if you challenged the narrative? You got an F. What about the fire element, where your passion was being siphoned or played with by people that just wanted to get a piece of it, if you know what I mean? All right, going off on tangents. What I find interesting is this piece of information by Dr. Timothy Leary. I know everybody, or a lot of people are familiar with Dr. Timothy Leary. So in his masterpiece called Neuropolitics, he talks about the developmental stages, which are triggered first by environmental necessity, then by conscious intent, leading to free will based integration of body, mind, and consciousness on a truly cosmic scale. The development of a child or an animal starts with how it first relates to the mother and father. From there, we go through developmental stages that can lead us into powerful initiations or powerful distractions and addictions. So it's very hard for me to read from the slides. I mean, I could just say it without reading because these little boxes and stuff and my cursor and thing isn't really working. But I think you guys can see it, hopefully. So, I mean, this kind of goes into epigenetics. And the mother-father energy and the divine blueprint within us has to do with the electromagnetic spectrum. And the weaponization of that is a part of the social engineering and mind control, and allowing these distortions or patternings that we might have been exposed to or adopted, allowing it to just make us angry and more polarized instead of looking to create a greater conversation. And so the whole old paradigm that has a lot to do with shame, blame, guilt, accepting a diagnosis or a label connected to a physical ailment, mental, emotional, whatever, is the name of the game, instead of actually understanding it and talking to it. So the initiations are facing that adversity. How can we possibly transform it and transmute it if we don't create a dialogue? If we don't create a dialogue, it's just going to perpetuate the distractions and addictions. It'll remind us of things that we see in TV. Oh, you know, whether that's a friendship we had and seeing how a couple plays out their relationship, or how our parents treated us. I mean, how are we really getting anywhere if we're looking to media and Hollywood as a source of any kind of reality? So it's very uncomfortable for people to go into the dark night of the soul. So if they don't want to go to that realm, they'll go to the doctor. The doctor will give them a pharmaceutical, more than likely, or try and heal their cancer through poisonous methods instead of really digging deep and understanding the roots of it. And I feel adversity is an opening to reclaiming our treasures. But society is designed to do the opposite, so it can make money off these vulnerabilities, off of the fear of what these initiations provide. So once a person becomes addicted to the bait that is presented in all forms of manipulation and deception, the architecture of this control system hooks into you and takes your vital force. This is what feeds the technologies, and it goes off planet as well. When we look at all the different levels of secret space programs, I mean, it's so vast. It's so vast. And it's nothing to fear. It's like, look at our own biology and consciousness. Even having what one might call good bacteria and bad bacteria in our stomachs. I mean, there's going to be a duality in our own physical systems, but it doesn't work when we create separation from it. It only works when we choose to integrate them. And then whatever we're struggling with can benefit the rest of our system that's going to struggle if we don't. And that's what Chinese medicine is based on. Our free energy, hold on 1 second. I have to pee so bad. Oops. Our free energy has been used as a weapon against us. Different false archetypes are played out, and they are rewarded and encouraged in our society. Disclosure is coming from us, and our job is to recover from all the assaults, social engineering, and thousands of years of trauma. And a lot of people kind of wait around like, when's disclosure happening? When's disclosure happening? Isn't the ultimate disclosure in personally awakening within yourself, instead of just kind of sitting around waiting, like when the governments are going to say it, or waiting for some resolution between individuals that are arguing about narratives? Isn't the ultimate disclosure realizing that when you connect with your own personal truth frequency and allow yourself to disengage from the hooks and all the things that are baked to pull you into those, energetic hooks, isn't that the ultimate disclosure? I mean, we are the event. We create that event. We are the shift, and we create ascension. We are the disclosure when we figure these things out. And once we do, the benefit that we have to the collective and on each other is huge. And if people are arguing, trying to say my story is better or not better, but I need to go after you because it doesn't fit this narrative, or I need to sue you, or I'm going to undermine you publicly. I mean, I'm sorry. That's obviously not a frequency connected to truth. Truth is not insecure. But if we're true to ourselves, we can admit our insecurities, right? So we got to kind of meet ourselves halfway. But when we look at what's going on in the collective, like, yeah, we can, correct ourselves. We can add something to the conversation to try and make sense of things. But if there's differences, why would somebody immediately throw you under the bus? So I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to go into the dynamics of what I've been seeing lately. But people do, or individuals do, get addicted to that whole dynamic. It's very unfortunate. And lots of movies kind of show us that dynamic, like Lord of the Rings, having that ring of power. What is power? Power is not based in who worships you and who serves you. True power, divine power, is the capacity to love and integrate all these fragments and live in integrity and hold mutual love and respect in this greater picture that we're in, to be a part of a greater conversation, to figure it out. Anybody who thinks they have it all figured out, yeah, it's just a little concerning. So I'm not going to dwell on that too much, but I've shared this meme a few times in presentations. So in 1950, I was born in 73, but we can just sort of bring ourselves back to this particular part in history and just imagine. And even in our own youth, 1950, though, is what this meme says. I bet in 70 years we'll have flying cars. Because I remember thinking that as a kid, oh my God, the year 2000, the year 2010, it's going to be way advanced. It's not just on a technological level. It's just the technology that's connected with consciousness. It's not AI. It's not transhumanism type technology. It's, those memories we have when we are in higher earth energies. Lemuria, Atlantis, and Atlantis pretty much fell because of these fallen systems, exploded planets, refugees that came from those fallen planets, and, service to self beings that originated in the first war of Lyra, that sort of came in an attack mode because the differentiation of the masculine and feminine became strong enough to be able to infiltrate it. So it's different in systems that aren't free will, but doesn't mean if it's not free will, it's under control. No, it's just the consciousness of the cosmic trinity is not infected. So this is a part of a greater experience that we all get to share. So, okay, look at the difference between 1950, I bet in the 70s we'll have flying cars, and then 2021. People are literally going off the rails saying, this syrup is racist. The Land O'Lakes lady, oh, that's racist. Dr. Seuss, oh yeah, that's going off the shelves. But yet parents are pointing out that their kids are literally be given soft porn books to read. All right. So nothing makes sense. And so what's really disturbing with mind control and social engineering is that when something doesn't make any sense, the trigger alert doesn't go off, because this false sense of loyalty over, I don't like to use the word override in this situation, but it can't question it. And so this presentation, and a lot of the presentations I do, is about understanding these toxic relationships. There's the conscious toxic relationship where a person feels that they can't leave, and of course they can. Then there's the unconscious, which is, where's the common sense? Where's the common sense? A lot of us have nothing to do with right or left, with being anti this or pro this. Kind of walk in the middle. Just want love to permeate, and for that to not ever get lost. So this is sort of an example of the next level of programming that is, playing out. And to me, the Great Awakening is being like, wow, shutting that down. And what's so funny, in the 60s and 70s, and everybody's talking about throwing out your TV and, calling all this stuff out. A lot of those same individuals that seem to be aligned with it actually aren't. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. But the thing is, if you look at the 2021 picture, this syrup bottle is racist, that well-intentioned person really feels like they're fighting for human race. They're standing up for, the oppressed. But yet they forget this huge and vast part of history that is genocided and holocausted all sorts of races. Does it mean we all need to be victims and decide who's the bigger victim? Or are we going to recognize that these times aren't about this? These times aren't about being masked. These times are not about caving in and giving our power away. But these times are also about acknowledging that some people are going to move in that direction. And how can we hold space for them and continue to love and be strong, and not let this break our hearts completely and totally? My heart's broken, so, probably I don't really wear makeup, but I'm sure it's, just anyway. Yeah, I'm certainly not doing very well in these times, and I'm working really hard to not stay in these lower energies. So when we look at the Hawkins scale, the lower energies are shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, right? And I'm not going to bring me into it, but I don't relate to those emotions. And if I ever fall into it, I accept and acknowledge that I need to go somewhere else. It's not going to serve me. It's only going to attract what I don't want in my life. I don't want to really get into my story. I think people are, maybe assume, oh, you're a part of the Eisenhower family. I'm sure you have trust funds, and I'm sure it was all pretty easy. No, this is a different family. I don't know how it got away with being in the White House, except for the fact that they were sort of using him as a scapegoat. A very dedicated general that stepped up in the ranks. It's like maybe an Olympian that, somebody's going to try and infiltrate and use, right? So his warning about the military industrial complex had a lot to do with acknowledging that sort of deal that we're dealing with. Starseeds deal with it. They get MyLabbed. And at the end of the day, we can only self-reflect and be like, we can't blame ourselves. But all right, these are the scenarios and dynamics that we're dealing with. And there are a lot of tactics that they use in order to be able to create an entry point. It was very manipulative. So it's more the programs out there are trying to throw us into fear, grief, apathy, guilt, and shame. All the tactics that they use so that AI can infiltrate are trying to throw people down into that lower vibration, which causes suffering. And in a way, we almost have to go through those kind of lifetimes and experiences to just be like, wait a second. That outer authority has no power over me. And then we start to go through the transformational and alchemical cycle, and we begin to get courage. I mean, I just watched a documentary last night, which I'm surprised I haven't seen. I wouldn't want to say the names wrong, but it was a huge group of individuals that escaped a Nazi camp. And it wasn't Auschwitz. It was a different one, like began with an S. I don't want to mispronounce it. And there was one individual that could not be broken or controlled or demeaned enough to give the power away. And I'm not saying, that it's not understandable that that would happen. I think we've all been there. But there was a rescue plan. And there's a greater rescue plan here on this planet. Doesn't mean something's coming to save the day, but how much can we align with it? How much is it in resonance with our own personal strength? Because there's no savior that can save us unless we're in some sort of agreement or we're finding that savior within ourselves. So, okay, there's saviors as far as, all right, you're drowning and a Coast Guard's going to come and pull you out. So should we bash that? Should we think that that's not cool? And then there's times where no a Coast Guard's going to show up. Are we ultimate victims? Is there something innately wrong with us if we don't attract that rescuer, or that rescuer comes and we didn't figure out how to save ourselves? I mean, we're infinite beings. We're going to go through all sorts of experiences. Let's just do what we can now by going deep within ourselves. And I had to check myself this week, about expectations. I let myself get really disappointed and really bummed, really freaking bummed. And I know what the astrology is behind it. But when, I really focus as deeply as I possibly can when I dip down into those lower energies, to be as honest as I can, to be as accountable as I can, and to have the courage to find neutrality, not numbness, not negation, not denial, but a certain neutrality where I'm not so triggered. And then all of a sudden, the greater energies come in. So does it mean when we reach enlightenment, though, or peace or joy or love, that's always going to be there? What if we wake up the next day and it's ripped away from us? Well, this is where the spiritual athlete mechanism comes in. We're in the physical. We're in the physical plane. We have to learn to deal with injuries, not just on a physical level for us to be athletes on a physical level, but we have to master that on every other level: emotional, spiritual, and mental. So let's talk about the here and now. I feel, call it theoretical, that the growth of and I know other people agree. I've talked to a lot of doctors that have been censored and have a lot of even doctor friends that have very much gotten involved more or aligned more with the metaphysical. But from what I've gathered, what I feel is true, the growth of pathogens are connected to mind control, because the mind is no longer connected with truth. There's going to be a replication of viruses and pathogens and everything deadly to our physical system if we're under mind control. And that almost it's sort of like common sense. I mean, if we're not living our truth or connected to our higher awareness and we're operating under a program, of course our physical body's going to revolt. And eventually, if we allow that to exist for too long, it's going to genetically modify us. So even healers, herbalists, Chinese practitioners that have decided to move in a certain direction that a lot of us might not understand, maybe they can counteract it. I'm not one to create fixed realities. I hold space and hope and prayers for that potentiality as being a contributor to the collective consciousness, which we all are. If we have the choice within our own minds and creative energy to decide, that seems like a good thing to align with, instead of, oh yeah, it's all doom and gloom. Oh, they're screwed. Yeah, that's just not me. And anybody could contradict it and say, well, no, even if you think that, it's still, yeah, they're screwed. It's like, fine. Well, I can't allow that to circulate through me, even if based in physics and science or whatever, you're correct. Because I have an underlying deep faith and connection with the creative imagination that anything's possible. So understanding, though, how things can get out of control when there's mind control, or there's these lower frequencies of shame, guilt, and regret, and all this stuff, it opens up territory for an invasion. And that invasion is there to wake you up. But if we keep believing in it and keep feeding it, it's going to do the opposite. So I feel the growth of pathogens and even allergies and every disease, regardless of where it came from, bioweapon, Lyme's disease, like some tick or some person you slept with, or what you walked in water in, some polluted third world country. Yeah, okay, you might get sick for a little bit, but how can we shift the frequency? And are we just at the mercy of it? So I feel the growth of the pathogen part of it has a lot to do with our emotional and spiritual and mental health. Not in a, labeling it like, oh, bipolar, you're depressed. That is just so undermining. But it's like, all right, there's some link between the bacteria, the viruses, the intelligence behind that, the black goo, these different things that we'll even notice that show up in GMOs. And I don't want to use the word, I'm trying to not get censored, but I could just go like this, beep, beep, which is very different in the here and now than what we're used to. So we are in these times, as far as 2020 is concerned, of the Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter conjunction. And to undermine the awakening process, they have gone out of their way. And we're going out of our way, excuse me for combining two sentences, to counteract it. So they is like a disassociated part of ourselves. It's like the negative ego construct that doesn't believe in itself. We can no longer point to the Illuminati and the deep state and blame them. We have to look at where we feed it, because it's based in stolen power. It would not exist unless it had our energy and power. So the targeting of children is definitely a good reason to get angry, but let's get to the root of it. And let's begin to unwind it and build new structures in society to, counteract this. And this is absolutely what we're all being called to. So all the stolen power is giving us back a continual artificial timeline and false narrative that people keep going along with. Like, this is the next level of how you should cope and deal with it. When in actual fact, the Pluto journey, which also rules viruses and disease, well, transformation, alchemy, and rebirth is the ultimate goal. So as long as a person is struggling with the shadow elements of it, it just means that they haven't completed the full journey. But that's not the destination. But when people attach themselves to that being the destination, then they start to look outside themselves for solutions. And they negate the fact that, they were on the verge of getting to the other side. And is that irreversible? I don't think so. I feel that this particular ascension window is going to nullify this and going to neutralize these dark weapons. But if people aren't on board, regardless of your choices or what you put in your body, if you're not on board with dropping this divide and conquer BS or this, my story is correct, and if you're not like aligned with it or giving your power to it, then you're wrong and I'm going to smear you. I mean, we're being hit from every angle, and it's always trying to make itself look like it's for your safety. It's because of truth, because I'm protecting this or protecting that. You're not protecting anybody when you go to battle and you discount them. If they didn't throw the first punch and they're not trying to screw with you, why in the F would you go after them? And unfortunately, I'm a little fired up, and I'm seeing this lately, and it's probably getting in the way of me being more articulate tonight, but it's like, seriously? So anyway, we've also been dealing with Eris square Pluto. Eris is a asteroid, and it's connected to the archetype of the goddess that is all about strife and conflict. And it's actually connected to the Trojan Wars and creating a lot of controversy, whatever that means. Anyway, within ourselves, we're dealing with these archetypes. It's connected to our endocrine system, our energetic body, our organs, our consciousness. So when these challenges arise, it makes no sense to look outside of ourselves for something else to solve it. We can get inspired. We can take advice. But we don't have to have that advice enforced upon us to the point where we negate our own truth. And this is really the greater battle. However it manifests in the physical plane is pretty much irrelevant compared to what it's doing to our psyche, what it's doing to us as elemental beings. So these kind of aspects are going to be playing out for quite some time. And the fact that Eris square Pluto is in opposition to the retrograding Mercury in Libra, a lot of people are going to be processing concepts connected to partnership, justice, harmony, and just really looking at that. So the hurt that people are feeling or the overwhelm that people are feeling very much is connected to not just loving drama, but loving harmony, wanting peace. and feeling very frustrated that why is it so difficult to attain? Why is it so difficult to attain? You know? So it seems to contradict the desire for harmony when one lets their energy drop. So that's part of the greater discipline right now, is to breathe through it, be as transparent as you can. Don't act out. Don't push it on others. Try and just, deal. Cry, scream, and send unconditional love to the people that are making choices and decisions that are disturbing and, triggering. And, so 6 planets in retrograde, including Pluto and Chiron. And the North Node and South Node were involved, especially in the last couple of days. It's going to begin to move on. And in a lot of people's personal charts, going to hit even more personal places. We're going to be witnessing and going through a lot. There's a lot of casualties in this particular war on consciousness. But if we can hold in our hearts love, unconditional love, and hold that space for those that are choosing division and the toxicity of what results from buying into divide and conquer, and we can hold that greater space, that acts as, a home base. And however long it takes for people to get back there doesn't matter. But just knowing that we're not sinking down into that vibration is the reassurance that we should stay strong with. If you're not going to go there, then that's awesome. If loved ones and family members want to go there, that's still part of their journey. Nobody can go through those awakening processes except for themselves. And the best thing we can do is not be gatekeepers, but be gate openers with our arms open, with unconditional love and understanding and forgiveness. And it's not about, because we're so right and they're so wrong. It's coming from concern, because we've done our research, we've gone down the rabbit holes, and it doesn't mean we like what we see. And it doesn't mean that we're just like sitting here just like, this is just great. No, it's tough information for any of us to want to delve into. But those of us that have delved into it, we have to stay open and flexible and not assume that we have all the answers either. So I'm just like going off here, like, spending a lot of time on certain slides, but this is the sort of thing that you guys can replay. But here I am kind of mapping out the outer planets and the different initiations they take us through. Every single planetary consciousness has a shadow side. Same with things within our own being. Our ego has a shadow side. Our spirituality even has a shadow side. I mean, who hasn't been exposed to people who are spiritually arrogant, right? Or follow some book or dogma or religion. And yeah, okay, that's spiritual. But the shadow of it is feeding into the solar plexus energy of identifying with the shadow of something that should be way more pure. So until the ego energy is willing, it's not going to be integrated with these higher dimensions. It's just kind of like holding in stagnation these potential breakthroughs that end up, manifesting as control mechanisms that people don't realize they're doing. So Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are the great initiators. And if you look at the properties of all these different planets, it's very interesting, because this isn't the kind of stuff that you're going to get from a therapist or your school systems or a counselor. But this is why I really appreciate astrology. And it has been targeted as a pseudoscience. And I can't, go into all that in this particular presentation, but here's just an example. Uranus currently is in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign. Uranus is connected to the Aquarian age. It's an air sign. It takes us into the truth frequency, and it's a really high vibrational energy. And very often when people connect with Uranus, when their chart doesn't naturally hold it, as being like a free-spirited sort of person that's born, maybe if you have a heavy Saturn and all of a sudden Uranus comes across in a transit, it's like shock and upheaval, nervous system, maybe disorder even, nervous system discomfort. So a lot of the physiological things that happen is based on what we aren't able to process, not so much what we ingest, although if we get that part figured out, it won't exacerbate the things we aren't able to process. Usually we ingest things that are based in the frequency that we're holding on some sort of level. And, or we choose things to help us to clear and transform things that we're holding on a different level, or vice versa. But anyway, Uranus is connected to awakening. And sometimes it takes shock and upheaval. And Taurus has a lot to do with self-worth, possessions, and the money system. And so a great awakening has more to do with, what do you hold value in instead of what society is telling you to value? Is it really great value to have millions of dollars in your bank account, like the celebrity world? Uranus is going to create shock and upheaval and breakthroughs, where certain losses or misfortunes might be misinterpreted, when in actual fact, it's a part of your greater awakening. So very often people misunderstand the messages that Uranus has to bring, even on a global level, like, oh, well, they're trying to take advantage of people's survival energy with a great reset. Well, how about just walk away from that job that's trying to manipulate you to do something against your will and be a part of greater leadership in your own community to utilize the resources of your education and intelligence with others that don't want to comply either, or leave that state or that area, and don't wait till it's too late. The time is now. And this is what's really difficult about these times that we're in. We don't have a lot of time to just sit there and ponder. We should have pondered a long time ago. There have been enough indications that we need to go down these rabbit holes. And unfortunately, 9/11 and things like that weren't enough for people. There's certainly no judgment about it, but judgment is bull. Anyway, so the shadow side of Uranus has a lot to do with panic attacks, PTSD, nervous breakdowns. But, it's not a shadow side that should not be loved and appreciated. That shadow element is a part of how we get to the higher frequency. We have to accept that that's a part of the journey. Same thing with Neptune. Neptune's been in Pisces. It's the natural ruler of Pisces. It has to do with consciousness, freedom, and the creative imagination. But very often we're not empowered in our creative imagination without going through the shadow. And the shadow of the creative imagination is fear viruses, mind viruses, getting caught up in disinfo and confusion. And it's all designed to infect us and take that energy and use it for its own benefit. And, even on a physical level, we see that. People that have gone through schooling that are great physicists, will often be recruited into governments in order for them to use their intelligence. That's one example of many examples. So the other and third outer planet is Pluto, which is currently in the sign of Capricorn. And in the sign of Capricorn, it's about the death of matrix control and the transformation of humanity. Well, the shadow side of it is suicidal thoughts, heavy energy, darkness, being stuck in the birth canal, not wanting to get out of the cocoon, and just looking to somebody else to make it feel better because it's too much. And so the suppression of that initiation not only comes through pharmaceuticals, but it comes through counting on external figures. Somebody else will fix that. Somebody else is going to deal with that. And that's not what the Great Awakening is about. So when we resist these energies, what happens? Our immune system gets lowered. So whether something's coming from a bioweapon or just a natural virus or, some, rabid raccoon bit your freaking neck. We set up these scenarios for ourselves to wake us up. But if we can't step up to the plate in the face of those kind of adversities, that shock and upheaval will not lead to the Great Awakening. It'll keep us looping in this biofeedback loop of the PTSD nervous breakdown scenario. So the shadow has to be loved and appreciated, but it has to be conquered. Nobody else but ourselves is going to be able to do that. So regardless of what sort of attack we're dealing with, bioweapon, chemtrail, or just natural, detox responses that our body goes through in order to, keep us pure. Why wouldn't we look at it as an opportunity? So because it gets hijacked, we see a lot of people asking or seeking anything to just make it go away and feel better without realizing the level of censorship, because the media steers things into thinking those are quacks. But if you spend 2 extra minutes, even 5, and you looked at these people that they're censoring, like Dr. Shiva, how many PhD degrees does he has? And then that realization of, oh my gosh, I made that wrong choice. Now that I see, don't let yourself fall into the belief system that you can't turn it around. We need to increase our spiritual immune system and heal our mental and emotional bodies, and the physical will follow. And I feel like no matter what decision we've made in our lives, we can turn it all around. I feel fear is a prerequisite to self-accountability, to where we feed into the fear, and then it can really help us to take more responsibility for our creative selves. And I redundantly sort of say we need to turn the weapons into tools for our higher growth. So in the face of adversity, we can get closer to ourselves instead of hand that power over to others. And this ascension cycle, adversity requires us to reclaim our treasures and move through these uncomfortable initiations. And I would never really, it's not that I disagree, and it's not like I'm a total expert, but I've seen miracles happen in my own life in just a shift of perspective. I never want to believe or hold an energetic signature where I feel that if people decided to do something to their physical health, that they're screwed because of epigenetics and what that is all about. So science is proving that our body's ability to heal and repair itself is greatly affected by our beliefs, thoughts, emotions, and intentions, for they have a profound vibrational effect upon our continually evolving genetic code. We're the programmers of the code. DNA activation is our software upgrade. So without being on this call too long, I just have to say, if you guys are interested in this kind of information, we have an event. I showed the slide November 1st. I'll get way more deep into it. And then also my censorship-free channel on Conscious Vitality, which you can find on cosmicgaia.org. Not trying to just like throw that in there, but I do realize I'm spending a lot of time on this, but there's so much more. So if we can agree upon this, as far as epigenetics is concerned, then I think it wouldn't be far-fetched to say that a mind control social engineering agenda is going to continuate DNA damage and the AI infiltration. But if we can counteract that with being willing to go into whatever dark night of the soul or whatever deprogramming process, or being able to make sense out of certain things that show up in your life in order to see a larger picture or the truth of who you really are, that won't be able to heal and counteract DNA damage. Even though they're trying to take DNA damage to the next level, the greatest resource and commodity we have is remaining free thinkers. This is a time of awakening. What does that mean? No, that we don't comply to this BS. But let's not be surprised that it's showing up either. You think they were just going to walk away? Oh, everybody's awakened. All right, we're out of here. All right, guys. I guess you figured it out. No, they've been planning for this too. And I don't have to list all the things. One of the most obvious is the Georgia Guidestones. This isn't anything new. It goes way back during the Atlantean cataclysm about 26 to 30,000 years ago. This is when the planetary stargates, the planetary grids, and ley lines became controlled by the negative alien races, such as the reptilians, the Anunnaki, the Nephilim, the Alpha Draconis, Orion group, Zetas, Greys, and some Nordics, right? All right, look at these as aspects of yourself. When you look at a biology textbook, it looks really complicated, but yet you wake up in your body every day. Do you need to know all that and understand all that to maintain a healthy physical vessel? No. But if you're not living a healthy lifestyle, wouldn't you want to know the roots of why and what might be messing with you? So when we look into this larger picture, it's very helpful to kind of know, even though that these beings aren't separate from us, we need to understand that they're a part of us because we either give our power away to them or we're allowing them. We can't sit here and be victims to the things that are vandalizing our house. We have to figure out what makes us vulnerable. Where are we living? Do we have an alarm system? Are we armed and forewarned? Did we invite them without realizing it? there's a lot of questions. And yes, sometimes there is assault and it's inexcusable. So I'm not saying, oh, we just attract everything, but we need to at least look at it on a much more honest level so that we can see where we're participating and feeding it, so that we can put our attention on creating justice and busting the true criminals and the innocent beings that don't deserve it. Deep down, I feel we're all innocent. I don't believe in this, born with original sin. I believe we're all innocent. But what can we possibly learn from all these different incarnational cycles to help protect us? Where are we being convinced in mind control into giving our power away or allowing predators into our space? And can we change the societal programs so that the very basic foundation of our societies and culture provide that, protection instead of a cop just showing up? After, violent movies are put on your local movie theater and, very destructive and disgusting scenarios. And teachers and police officers are going off to rituals, and they're a part of the drug trafficking and human trafficking. We can't turn a blind eye anymore. Our children are counting on us, and enough information is out there. So anyway, the mass biological and mind control devices exists well beyond the technology of implanting tiny physical chips into humans, which accompany many of the abductions by the Greys and non-benevolent Zetas. And they're also an impending application of such electronical devices by the one world government to the population. Even brain signatures radiated by government HARP and Gwen towers are relatively superficial compared with ancient existing global grid systems, which can be used for manipulating the evolution of all life on the planet, including the planet life force itself. So that I always share in my presentations, that's global grid, including the planet's evolution, the bar was covering it up. So that's Noel Huntley. He talks a lot about the global grid systems. I might not have read that very clearly, but the whole deal is, okay, no matter what's inserted in us, whether through abduction or something we ate or something that was injected in us, that's relatively superficial compared to how these technologies in our ancient past have actually been the main manipulator. The chips and everything else and the food we eat and the false media and what the entertainment industry does to us is just the bait to pull us in so that we attach ourselves and give our vital life force, Kundalini and everything, to powering up these artificial timelines. So this wouldn't be possible unless we bought into the transmissions and distortions. And if we can look at those distortions in the face and say, I choose authenticity, truth, an organic lifestyle, and true love, it doesn't really hold any power over you. And you are a natural grid worker, and you are impacting the area that you live in a very positive way. And sometimes impacting things in a positive way means you need to purge and release. Just like the physical body, if it has a lot of toxicity, but we don't always want to overanalyze what we're releasing. And I redundantly say, sometimes it's better to just flush the toilet. But it's also good to, look at the root of it, not necessarily the effect of it. Because then, I don't know, it creates a lot of, I don't know. Anyway, one of my favorite quotes, because it really hits home, is from Lisa Renee. True spiritual marriage as a part of natural biological spiritual ascension was stolen from humanity through the alien invasion, and the pain of that theft and emotional abuse has damaged many people's hearts. Artificial timelines and false ascension and negative memes in the media and news are all a way to distract us away from the real work that we need to do. So if you really look at that, all right, we're going to go to the next level of this presentation. We have a choice between organic ascension and an organic ascension timeline or artificial timeline. So does it have to get that complex? I mean, let's bring it back down to simplicity. What would make it artificial? Forgetting soul, forgetting meaning, forgetting depth. Artificial, I mean, it says it right there in the word. Fake, fake. So does it mean if we're organic, we just let ourselves go? No. It means that we work with whatever symptoms are showing up and we look to heal it instead of replace it. Sometimes we might need to, though. And so AI and certain technologies aren't a huge problem, but when it completely overrides the ability for a person to think on a soul level, that's pretty concerning. But, it's not me to judge, but here you can see the difference in this particular graphic, right? You got your 12 tribes, you got your 12 spheres of the true tree of life. Then you have your artificial phantom matrix overlay that create AI timelines based on what it can harvest and steal. That is based in 10 strand, which is draconian. So if one were to Google around to find a tree of life template, very often you'll only see the 10 sphere. And I've talked about this a lot before. The draconian Orion group are also referred to as the Black Suns. Then you got the Sons of Belial, 11 strand, and they're another controller group. So if we're 12 strand and beyond, anything that's a gatekeeper that's keeping us from all that, even though it's representing a higher dimensional energy, it's still a gatekeeper. So that overlay on the planetary grid network, the fact that it blocks certain points on the planet that are very significant, is going to impede the greater energetic circulation. It's like one could say, oh, well, the heart is like 12D or 13D. But if you block this part of it that needs to get to the heart, that transmission is not possible. So we need to recognize, though, that we're not victims to outside gatekeepers. We need to look within our own consciousness. Okay, what does that block? What belief system or what trigger, trauma, or whatever am I feeling into as you look to upgrade and become whole again? And one of the, and that's the 10 strand depiction. And then here's the 12 strand. So we have to understand when we start to move into higher levels of ourself, we're inevitably going to be psychically attacked. And sometimes it just comes out of left field. And yeah, it's always looking for what it's profiled. What is the biggest trigger, right? And I noticed this last week, and I was surprised I got so reactive and like upset. But it was based in traumas that I've gone through before, and it was really testing me. So I see it as a great opportunity to move through it, not be victimized by it, not give my power away to it. But it doesn't mean that I was just like, boom, oh, yeah. And I won't get into it all. But the whole deal is, as we rebuild the true organic tree of life template and begin to upgrade, we're going to have to face these things and just deal with it. And sometimes it's in random places that you thought you might have been able to ignore, but very often it bleeds into a place that you won't be able to ignore. It's going to try and find us because the initiations require it. We can't initiate without moving through the gatekeepers, because as we upgrade our DNA and move into the reclamation of our full 12 strand and beyond capacity, our DNA, sun DNA, to overcome the gatekeepers is to not be fooled, tricked, or defeated by them. So even if you get pissed and depressed by it, that's not the destination, but don't judge that part of yourself. Just move through it. There might be multiple lifetimes connected to it, certain betrayals that are a deeper wound than other people might be able to relate to. But the most important thing is that this is key to getting to the next level. Even if you already have existed in that next level, there are a lot of masters, ascended masters from previous time cycles and past lives that are here to master this particular time in our human history that might be struggling. But this is not a linear timeline, right? So we can bring that in. And it doesn't mean it's egocentric, like, oh, well, I have all the answers. No, it's loving yourself enough and seeing the bigger picture enough to not take it too personally, because this is a battleground. There's nothing light and fluffy about this time that we're in. So, all right, the Saturn energy is transiting, from 2020 to 2023. which means basically Saturn's in the sign of Aquarius. And Saturn is also making a squared aspect to Uranus, right? And Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. So there's a lot to share about this. Anyway, the control over stargates and earth grids, dark ritual abuses taking place, and how that has kept us in digression and 3D. Also, the infiltration of our media and most power structures and the programming embedded in our culture, we all need to unhook from. We all have to go through some sort of showdown with these forces of control, an archonic attack, and hold the override frequency. When we work this stuff on a micro level, we upgrade our DNA. What it does on a macro level helps to open up the gateways, the stargates on this planet, so that we can experience the higher earth energies and understand that this earth is multidimensional. And a lot of the dark reversal technologies have been placed in these areas, which through osmosis has a bit of a grip on us on a consciousness level. But if we start from here, the earth and the stargates have no choice but to respond. If we wait for something outside of us to do it, we're not contributing anything, really. If we do it within ourselves, we're going to greet and meet these higher elements of ourselves that have been waiting for us to be empowered and to remember. But if we sit there and wait for them to do it, they don't really have access. They're not going to violate the law of free will and intervention, except for the fact that recently some latest intel coming in from Alex Collier and even Elena Donna, they're very aligned, is that intervention is off the table, but they're not going to save us. They are willing to still interact with us on the earth level because we are, in a lot of ways, their descendants. We carry this genetic inheritance, and a lot of star seeds came here representing these greater councils and groups. And there's a greater relationship going on there. But yeah, they're not going to do it for us. And a lot of people misunderstand those kind of missions. So basically, if we can all get on board with this, healing our damaged DNA is actually healing thousands of years of imbalance that has turned into health issues and conditions. If we can create balance and harmony and understand our inner self and the elements that we are made of and the availability of the ether in these times, we can heal damaged DNA. Believing anything less is a self-fulfilling prophecy, I feel. As we clear false and inorganic architecture from suppressing and impairing our consciousness, we are extracting the alien enslavement programming and the alien implants and the mind control in order to embody our true inner Christos spirit and return to the 0 point field. So as much as there's assaults and reasons to feel like they're irreversible, intention is everything. And when we begin to return to the 0 point field, we enter the heart of the God gateway that leads to the 7 higher universes. And what the heck does that mean? Well, in this ascension window period, the galactic core of Andromeda and the Milky Way are one again. And because the Milky Way has been a fallen system, is a part of ourselves that needed to go through this free will process to maybe not take for granted our true capacity to embody something truly great. And so the fallen angelics and the rebellion ones and, this major opposition and duality that ended up manifesting is something we have to, obviously reconcile within ourselves. And the reptilians may be taking a chance by connecting humans into their collective via the implants. It may be possible to turn this into a weapon against them, providing that we stay within the direction of divine grace, right? So we've been breathing in all sorts of stuff. We've been eating food that might not be so great. We can agree to physically detox as best as we can. What about our mental body? What about the patternings that we hold? What about how we might deny our greater calling and passions? How are we operating on a mental level? Because that's the main system and computer behind how it's going to run its energy through the creative channels and the biological aspect of it all. And it only is AI when the mind virus overrides the truth frequency. and disrupts the integration of the right and left brain. When something can keep us separate from this integration of polarity, the AI comes in. It's almost like saying, you're just being a stupid F. I'm not going to cuss. I'm not going to drop F-bombs. So I'm just, other things are just going to come in. It's sort of like a bully, but it's not. It's an infiltrator and a convincer. So we just need to step back and take it upon ourselves, because whatever we've been implanted with, whatever technology has been absorbed into our being, is not going to stand a chance once we integrate polarity. It is so afraid of that. The conception of things that seem to be dueling or battling each other. They just want to keep the battle alive. They don't care what side you choose. As long as you're against something, you're vulnerable, because that duality has no balance. There's no energetic circulation. It literally is a breeding ground to archons. So anyway, the path is about going into, so-called hell, to move past the gatekeepers and controllers, to restore that hell zone into the womb of regeneration and fertile creativity. And I've just been saying this for years. It's the true darkness that receives the seeds of our higher consciousness. It's the true divine power is recognizing this integration. We go through hell in life. How do we stop that hell? We have to give it unconditional love. We have to bring the light of spirit and truth into that domain in order to create the greater alchemy. The minute we just buy into, oh, I'm a sinner and I'm lucky if I ever get forgiven, you might exist there for a long time. And if you don't even think in those terms and you just keep on justifying evil behavior because you're such a victim to anybody who ever harmed you, yeah, well, that's a trap. The dark night of the soul is the term many refer to when they go into this zone, when it's time to face our own darkness. It gives us the opportunity to clear programmings and all the things we have been unconscious to that is leading us astray. This is how we overcome archonic controls, patriarchy, and negative ET agendas. Remember, it only wants you to be polarized. And it'll convince you that whatever choices that you're making is better than somebody else's. You become a breeding ground to archonic forces and a certain level of mind control that's going to boost your ego in a false light. Or you might go into the opposite, where you're so victimized, there's just no hope and there's no self-worth. It just wants you to be on either side of it. So very often when a person goes into the victim side of it, they're going to allow themselves to be recruited into some group or false movement to feel a sense of self-worth. And we have to find a greater sense of self-worth beyond our biological parents, beyond the scenarios that we've been faced with on this physical plane, and begin to really deeply look within. As painful as it is to move through some of those difficult emotions, trust yourself, give it unconditional love. You are the greater healer to those aspects of yourself. And once you do that, or at least commit to it, even if you're not fully there, I'm not fully there. I've been there and then I lost it and then I get back. I definitely started to create synchronicities or manifestational experiences that brought people of way higher integrity into my life, which I could safely say is my husband. Hello. He's listening. Anyway, I got so much more to share, and I focus a lot on medical astrology. I've talked about this in my previous talks. This is sort of okay. So this final line, zodiac. The zodiac corresponds with our DNA, 12 strands, and the 13th. Now the 13th is there, right? As of 2010, and it takes us into that 0 point. It's a neutron window that connects us to the Andromedan galaxy, right? So on an earthly and cosmic level, we're totally ascending. But look at what they're steering and doing, and look at these narratives that they're creating to pull people away from it. And you know why it's getting worse? Is because this is all they have, the weapon of media and narratives and mind control. We all have to remember, step away from it, shut it down, take deep breaths. Look at what's being targeted, the breath. The breath. Those that aren't willing to go through the transformation cycle are sitting here struggling with being able to breathe. They're choosing to be masked. So many people are ending up in the hospital on ventilators because we're being convinced or manipulated into thinking that breathing deeply is a problem and connecting with each other. Well, guess what the breath is? The breath of life, the Holy Spirit. And in this particular ascension window period, these activations and codes are everything. So the weaponization of the Aquarian age and the weaponization of ascension is something that we need to stand strong in the face of and have the courage to say, I don't think so. Even if it makes us sick for a little while, even if it means we die, it's so much better than allowing these psychopaths and these criminals to have a piece of us. But, you know, to each their own. So if we look at the full capacity of what our DNA holds, is going to require us to move beyond the 3D matrix. In order to do that, we need to lift the veil, which requires us to go through that dark night of the soul. And yeah, the whole idea of death, people always think, oh, got to fear death, physical death, we need to stay alive. What about maintaining a physical vessel and going through a death, rebirth, transformation cycle? Because when we do that, we're deeper. We get it more. We're looking for meaning in our relationships. We see through the lies, the facades, the realm of appearances and the personality structure of it all that is literally just, you know, like looking at a Big Mac McDonald's sign and being like, oh yeah, that looks really good. What about nutrition? What about substance? So we need to go through that death rebirth cycle to move to these higher levels. And nobody's going to do it for us but ourselves. And when we look at the full map of medical astrology, we're not just dealing with the 12 signs. Look at the very bottom of this chart. There's a fiocus. What does it rule? Fetal cells, tailbone, cranial sacral axis, solar sacrum, kundalini, amrita, Leyden gland, base of brain, golden chalice, lunar to solar transfiguration. And you can see some of these terms really relate to sexual centers and the solar plexus, right? But what's different about a fiocus is it's alchemical. It connects with the ether. It's not compartmentalized to the point where it's just like scorpionic. Well, if Pluto rules Scorpio, it was bound to take us into a fiocus, right? And look at where a fiocus sits. November 17th to December something. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but that is the period between Scorpio and Sagittarius. So there's so much more to share. And this is the kind of stuff I will be sharing. I'll be doing presentations on conscious vitality. We have an event with Portal to Ascension coming up, and you know, I'll delve more into this, the energy of a fiocus. This is an astrological sign. That doesn't mean that your own natal chart changes because there is a 13th sign. No. As of 2010, when the timeline shifted, the sun started to move through the 13th sign of fiocus. It connects with the Great Mother energy and the cosmic ether. So I've got a lot of information about how that affects our DNA and how the ether is connected to mitochondrial DNA and the quintessence, which has to do with Sophia, our feminine power, which is the diamond heart within the earth body and is the body of the mother arc, the aqua ray, the quintessence, the ether anchored on earth. This is correcting reversals. That particular energy, if we go back to here, was damaged. The reversals called reversal 55 impacted the dodecahedron platonic solid. And on a planetary grid level, made it very difficult for that ether energy to flow. And that's why there's been so much injustice, disease, epidemics. But we have to understand that like the earth grids and the multidimensional cosmos is a replica of us. So if that's being manipulated, we're being manipulated. So where are we not able to access that ether energy to purify? So the mitochondrial DNA, which has been damaged due to the fact that the mother energy has not been grounded in the planet. I present some, I got a bunch of books coming out. I can't wait to share the full picture here. But the fifth principle, which is the mitochondrial DNA, is correcting the reversals, but it's anchored into the physical planet. So how is an ether energy and heavenly energy anchored into the physical planet? Well, what's the revelation there? It's the rebuilding and rehabilitation of the tree of life, because that is what our physical vessel is all about. that ether energy, that 0 point energy is meant to be rooted into our everyday and our root chakra, to the point where we recognize that spirit holds dominion over physical matter, and we are not at the mercy of any of this outer stuff. We are avatars. We are participating on a creative level to not control the elements, but to co-create with the elements, because we're in communion with them. We hold respect for them, and they are an manifestation of our soul instead of our ego personality nature, which is easily played and manipulated and distorted. It's time to get over these distortions of the masculine and feminine, the separation of light and dark, the fear of dark, and recognize that this 0 point unified field is available through this correction process. So we don't need to name it Sophia, although that is very relevant, but it's the aqua energy. And look at the word Aquarian. Look at the first 4 letters, aqua, Aquarian, the restoration of the tree of life. The only way it can be restored is to break down the tree of knowledge and the duality of good and evil and give it the substance of purification and accountability, saying, wait a second, how am I participating in this dark agenda? And where is my creative energy being stolen from? And where am I allowing myself to create duality and destruction without shame or blame? Forgive yourself, love yourself. Unconditional love is everything. The cosmic ether, or the mother's quintessence, manifests itself into any geometrical wave pattern and breathes life into it, creating offspring, right? So that integration of polarity creates conception, and multiple fractal patterns of spirals are created and birthed into form and matter. So holding an intention, integrating polarity, not choosing sides, taking the storylines off of why you would even want to choose sides, and looking within yourself to see that deeper relationship is where it's at. And everybody knows how much I love Lisa Renee, and a lot of her words and information has inspired me, but very much what I've always known. And I love to bring in what she shares, because man, boy, does she bring in the downloads and the information. So I like to, bring in that and other interesting people, because I'm not the only one that thinks this. And we don't have all the answers. So why are we afraid to learn and grow from each other? We all have something to give to one another. And I know she's genuine because she listens to me and honors me. And I just hope to see more of that amongst individuals that are putting material out there. And I'm just really grateful for all the roundtables I've done with all sorts of amazing people, and all the interviews I've been doing, which you can also find on my new platform, Conscious Vitality, which is censorship free. And there's more astrological information. And it's really the times that we're in, defining it on an astrological level. I think a lot of it's, pretty darn obvious. I talked about the Saturn square Uranus, right? Uranus is all about liberation and sovereignty. Saturn making a squared aspect means friction and conflict. But if we can look at these energetic bodies and see their shadow side and see where we might be attached to it or struggling with it, we can begin to raise its vibration, right? So the lower octave of Saturn is tyranny and control and enslavement, is making a challenging aspect to the planet Uranus, which is all about sovereignty and truth. But so many people, a lot of people are afraid of being sovereign and afraid of truth. So the tension on the planet right now is between those that are afraid of that freedom and just want to be told what to do. And the tension for those that are free spirits are, oh my God, I can't believe, these mandates, or that people are buying into this, right? So this is this greater tension that's going on that requires a breakthrough. So we're in a collective breakthrough, which involves a breakup. And the best that we can do for those that are on the side of sovereignty and truth and freedom is to encourage people to leave that toxic partner, which metaphorically is no different than being married to a narcissist, a control freak, an abuser, and helping them to really see that without too much politics getting in the way. I know it's easy for that to happen because there's legitimate reasons that people would share what they shared that isn't about the right and left sort of, there's a lot of indication that that's not what we've been seeing lately, but that should be the last thing that we try and convince each other of. let's put that aside for those that aren't ready for it and remind one another that there's a much more beautiful reality, and the true powers that be is us and our capacity to love. And out of all leaders that ever existed, Mother Earth is the greatest. The energetic body of her is crystalline by nature. It holds all the elemental energies, of course. It's got an animal kingdom and the most beautiful mountains and water and sky and everything. And look at how that has been compromised. Why don't we start there and not go to a bunch of like weird governmental issues to solve climate change? Let's heal the climate within ourselves. Where's our negative ego and belief systems and programmings causing us to stay contaminated within ourselves and with each other? Because the earth responds to us. We are the shift. Nobody else is going to solve it but us. We need to starve that beast that is targeting our greatest concerns and greatest triggers, greatest traumas, and trying to tell us how it's going to be solved, when it's us coming together and listening to one another that's going to do it. Because do they really listen to us? No, they don't. So let's embody these greater energies and not let ourselves get played. Because you know why people end up in narcissistic relationships? Because they're charmed, they're wooed, they're pulled into it because they hear everything they want to hear. Next thing you know, you're lucky if you survive it. Why are we looking outside of ourselves? Haven't we learned enough from these tyrannical systems? And if it was really a benevolent government, do you think it would encourage censorship and the denial of, I mean, come on. I don't have to go there. I'm preaching to the choir here. I need to wrap this up. But basically, psycho-spiritual warfare is radically increased when a person starts to step into higher galactic chakras. That is when they begin to lose us. When we begin to integrate polarity and create this greater sacred union bond within ourselves. And it's a process. It's not comfortable. But why don't we support one another through that discomfort instead of make fun of or point out every flaw and every difficult thing that might show up? If I were you, I would appreciate the fact that that person is actually having a real human experience instead of putting on a facade. And yeah, maybe one could say, well, then don't show up on camera. But you know what? It doesn't do well to just crawl away. And, you know, some of us are super dedicated. So let's pay attention to the priority. And I'm talking about this across the board. Sometimes it happens to me, but I see it happening to my friends too. And it pisses me off a lot more than when it happens to me. You know, this is a time to rehabilitate and to get real with each other. And in doing that, we overcome on a collective level, this level of psychic attack. We have to overcome it in our own personal life, but to overcome it on a collective level, that we don't sit there pointing out everybody's flaws. We don't sit there hating on anybody who disagrees with us. If anybody disagrees with us, just simply have a boundary, but with love and respect, invite them to be a part of a greater conversation to maybe connect some dots instead of throw them under a bus. I mean, here I could keep going on about all that. But once we move beyond that barrier, once we get that piece figured out, we start to go into level 1 of building wings. Our 6th and 7th chakras start to create something. This greater integration, it opens us up to the 8th and 9th, which is that infinity spiral I was talking about, which is the crystal lotus heart. And then level 3, the hierogamic union, the crystoplasmic light, which is dimensions 10, 11, 12, which corresponds to our 10th and 11th, 12th strand DNA. And then 13, the mother energy, which will always help to purify us and protect us against these levels of attacks, because we recognize that what makes us most vulnerable is to deny any aspect of ourselves. And one of the greatest rebellions that some might call Lucifer or the fallen angelics, doesn't matter about names, was to deny the mother while she continuously births us, which doesn't make any sense. And so a lot of men are being born with a lot of past lives of being a woman and being a mother that are really holding space, and vice versa, where a lot of people are being born as a woman, maybe after having tyrannical lifetimes of being an aggressive masculine. Well, we don't want the mind control to keep us from these greater soul lessons. That would be the biggest cop-out, because we go through everything we could possibly need. Life gives us everything we need to find our wholeness again and to be all that we truly can be and to begin to give each other the love and respect we deserve. Anything less than that, I would take some time off and figure it out. The Archonic Matrix is an imitation of the original creation. It actually doesn't hold any real power over it unless you personally allow it to. Our energy and frequency can be plugged into two things: source energy, or the electronic controls that seek to pull one into an artificial world. The only real danger is if you buy into it. If any one of us, if you can detach from the media, the governments, and the distortions, you can unfold into your original form, upgrading and restoring your DNA. And I wrote this a long time ago, and I'm just putting it in this presentation again. And this little blocker is preventing me from reading it all. But this comes from my heart. I don't need to read it. If we can detach from all of it, this is a natural process. We don't need to strategize to try and figure it out. When we start to try and strategize and overthink, it's because we're trying to process what the matrix is all about. So if that process drains you and negates you, take that process and begin to pull it back to your divine purpose and your calling. And be a leader in your own community. Whatever you see that nobody else is doing might mean that you're the one to step up and do it yourself. And in doing that, you're going to ignite a greater virus and response than any sort of harmful one that is going to take us under. What is taking us under is our unwillingness to be brave and strong and step up. And however many lifetimes it takes for certain people to figure that out is what it is. But overly identifying with the reward system of society and being afraid of being ostracized or laughed at, it's that small of a breakthrough that if humans could go through and get to the other side of, would make all the difference in the world. Nobody's looking for people to have it all figured out or have all the answers. When all this complexity gets back to just this basic simplicity, that there's no genius mind that can admit that the real truth is about as simple as it gets. And it gets complicated. We can just talk till we're blue in the face trying to explain it. But I think the reason a lot of us do is because we didn't learn about this in school. And people require sort of like, okay, convince me. How about convince yourself that it's this simple? Be the truth, be love, embody that love, live by the law of integrity, and hold strong intentions. Don't give up on your dreams. Face the shadow when it shows up. Give it unconditional love and respect so it can take you to the next level, and know that you hold the key and the answers, and that we're all walking geniuses. It's in our divine blueprint to manifest as such. And we don't have to do it through our intellect. We can be the embodiment instead. Wouldn't that be refreshing? We win the war within. The good and evil is one within. And if nobody believes that this is taking place on a cosmic and earthly level, get to know about the Venus transits. I always share it in my presentations about the Venus transits. There is a correction that has been taking place to help the planetary body get back into alignment with the galactic core after exploded planets and all these different scenarios took place that has shattered us and fragmented us. So let's cut ourselves some slack. All sorts of forces came in to manipulate that and take advantage of it. So it's not like, oh, wow, God, we were so stupid. No, we're so amazing to be able to face this sort of harsh reality and see it as an incredible blessing to overcome, so that we can neutralize the AI and also hold love for those that might not know better, and help hold space for how they're acting out their frustration and confusion, so that we can enlighten the AI and dismantle those dark energies so that it's no longer a weapon against us. It's a backlash against all those that ever thought that they could steal and rob us of our divine blueprint. And I'll just leave it at that. But I barely scratched the surface, and I'm blah, blah, blah. Thank you guys for listening.
That's huge.
Thank you, Laura. Laura, can you hear me?
I got more, but.
That was great. Wow.
Can you hear me, Laura?
That was great.
Oh, that's right.
I love the standing or the sitting ovation in the background.
Thanks, Kevin.
I think we're all clapping too.
Yeah, just overanalyze and like, oh man, I could have shared it better. I could have done this better.
You're sharing so much all the time. You go live on your YouTube so often that you're sharing enough in the increments that you need to, and we're all receiving it. So thank you so much for all that, Laura.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And we do have, just to let everyone know, we do have like an archive of Laura Eisenhower footage on our website, like tens of hours at this point. So, and a lot of it is available for free from the stuff we did a few years ago and beyond. So if you want to go into more into these topics, you can definitely check it out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've repeated a lot that I've shared before. It's very well developed in the presentations on Portal to Ascension. And the event that we're doing November 1st and 2nd, though, is going to take us into a completely different place as far as my part is concerned. But for those that have never heard me speak before, it's hard to leave out some of that foundational stuff if it's redundant to anybody. I hope it serves as a good reminder. Sometimes doing these presentations helps snap me out, and I'm like, yay, because but yeah, this next event we're doing, definitely taking things to the next level. As far as it's not going to be the same presentation you just heard tonight.
Yep. So, and here's the website to everybody. So we're live on multiple platforms right now. So if you guys want to tune in and be a part of this event we're doing together, Tribe Production with Laura Eisenhower and Agi Nost, and all of these other individuals are going to be presenting there. This is going to be November 1st, November 2nd, 2 full days. And as always with all of our events, you get unlimited replay access to view it back whenever you want. So you can go to portaltoascension.org, online events, and sign up there. It's really going to be a full circle awareness event. And exactly what the title is what it's all about, is like, what's the next step now that we know all this information and talking about it? What are some tools and some information that can help us activate our conscious evolution and create the reality that we know is possible? Right, Laura?
Oh, completely. And, this is the power behind what we manifest, is what we empower, what we align with, what we give life to. And it's beyond belief. We get to discuss beliefs, but ultimately all of that should bring a person back to the core of their truth that we can appreciate about one another, no matter how different it is. We're just trying to figure it out. There's factual stuff, there's theoretical stuff, but if we're a part of this greater conversation with mutual love and respect, nobody's negated and I mentioned that, or thrown under the bus. And there's a drop in competition. There's more appreciation. We all have something to bring to the table, as long as we are being, true and honest. And if we feel stuck, let's just admit it. And we all are here to learn from each other. Yeah. That to me is unity consciousness, not sameness, diversity and harmony, and connecting dots and pulling together research. I mean, everything that I share, I wouldn't share unless I really felt it was in a truth frequency. And everything that I've shared has helped me to still be alive. Most of it has been life or death. The information I brought in literally gave me the capacity to carry on, because it wasn't based in deceptions. And I kind of required that since I was little, I need truth, or I can't do this.
Yeah.
But it might not be somebody else's truth. So just take what resonates and leave the rest, and share your information. And let's just, be an orchestra and dance and play music in harmony. I don't know. I'm being a cheese ball now, but.
No, I 100% agree with you. Laura, I love you so much. Thank you for being here for the last 3 to 4. No, when do we start? At 6:30 for 3 hours straight, and just giving so much of yourself and bringing so much amazing information. I love you. I appreciate you.
Oh, I love you too, Neil. And thank you so much for having me. And thanks everybody for tuning in. I look forward to next time. And follow my Telegram, Cosmic Gaia, Laura Eisenhower, and we'll make sure you have all the updates as far as what's ahead. But and I'll be updating my website soon as far as our conference, November 1st and 2nd.
Yep,
so
sounds good.
Thanks, Neil, for your tireless work and your incredible mission. Love you, and everybody for yours as well. And whatever form it takes, there's no greater or lesser, unless you're letting yourself be compromised, you know it can only get better, and there's no judgment. Let's just do this and support each other in this rehabilitation process. We've all had compromising influences, and we're all growing together, and we're going to thrive.
Yes, we are. Okay. Have a beautiful night, Laura. Talk soon.
All right. Bye,
All right,
Neil.
bye.
Bye, everybody.
All right, everybody. Here we are. 11 hours and 17 minutes after we started. And I don't know if you could tell, but the exhaustion just hit me like 10 minutes ago. I'm ready to just hang out for the rest of the night and get ready for tomorrow. It was a great day. A lot of amazing information was shared. Rob, I see that you're still on. Before we close out, do you want to come on, brother, and just like share your feelings? If you're still around, Rob.
Yeah, I'm still here. Let me just
Hey,
throw
brother.
my hat on. I have a sweatshirt on. I'm doing the thing. Turn
I
my
was
light
like,
on
you're
real
probably
quick.
you're probably in your PJs already.
Almost, but no, it's what a presentation Laura just gave. I mean, that panel and then the presentation was it just hit it home. Like so many profound moments that I just needed to hear.
Yeah.
And then, that they say there's no such thing as coincidence, and it's just been what a day, man. What a day. Super downloads, and I appreciate everybody and love everybody. It's just so amazing.
Definitely, dude. And it's just really like the way it happens synchronistically is the first day is really a foundational element, and then the next, like the spirituality, the positivity, the empowerment element, what's happening with the ascension and the bigger picture. Now for the next few days, as you know, knowing the schedule, we're going to get even more fine-tuned with the individual occurrences, ancient history, what's happening with our new archaeological discoveries, experiencers, what are they saying? What are the testimonies that they're actually having with interaction with these beings, all the way to, UFO disclosure and beyond. So we have a lot to share, and I'm excited, and you're going to be on quite a few times over the next few days.
I'll be here the whole time, man. I'm at your disposal whenever you need me, and we're gonna make some big things happen, and definitely share the information with the world. That's my mission, is to unprogram people and just share. That's what it is.
Exactly, bro. I love you, man. So
love you too, brother.
I'm going to get into just closing out for the day then. Just to let everybody know, we actually have around 750 on all channels right now tuning in live. And that's just the individuals. I'm sure there's more than one person with a lot of you. There's watch parties going on. So a good amount of individuals here. So I'm going to share this with you so you can join the live Zoom room and get unlimited replay access on our website if you would like. You can go to portaltoascension.org, online events. I'll just do it with you right here. Online events. The first one right here, the Portal to Ascension 4-day online summit. The second one is the post-conference workshop if you're interested in that. You open that up, you can register for free or by donation, and then check out everything. Check out the schedule, day 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can sign up to join and be a part of the live Zoom room. So if you want to do that, please do. If not, on Portal to Ascension YouTube, we're going to be live for the next 3 days with so much more information. And tomorrow's schedule, everybody, just one more time, schedule for you. You can kind of see the whole thing here. We're going to start out the day with a mass meditation / ascension download with Sharaya Dharma. Then we're going to go with Dan Winter, physics of ascension and time travel. That is the talk. And then we're going to go with Sheila Seppi, who's going to be doing the walk-ins, a talk on the walk-ins and what star seeds and what extraterrestrial hybrids are and the testimonies that are coming from them. Following her, we do have Foster Gamble. Foster Gamble's talk is on unified field, and Alan Steinfeld and myself will be interviewing him. Then we have Barbara Lamb, who will be talking about her hypnotic regressions to extraterrestrial lives, regressing individuals to the extraterrestrial lives, and what kind of experiences, planets, races, and all of this based on thousands of regressions. Following her is Kiyoshi for conscious hip hop / spoken word for a good 20-minute presentation with him. And right after Kiyoshi, we have Adam Apollo. Adam Apollo will be talking on, basically he's next level Jedi master training, but definitely a huge connection to the galactic civilizations and to understanding the technology of different extraterrestrial races within our galaxy. So that's going to be really mind-opening experience with him. And then after Adam, Phil Gruber, he's just a frequency. all I can say is, even if you don't understand what he's saying in the moment, his frequency will penetrate you and you'll feel the vibration of what he brings forward. He's an amazing individual connected to me through Alan Steinfeld. And then our last presenter, individual presenter for tomorrow, is Grant Cameron. Grant Cameron is going to be doing his basically life story presentation, what I've learned over the last 20 plus years of UFO school. And then to close it out, Rob Yox from Full Spectrum Universe, Omar I Am One, Brendan, the MC, Brendan Culleton from Paradigm Shift Central, Alan Steinfeld, myself, and Paul Wallace will be having a discussion on ancient history. It's just going to be an open discussion and also taking questions and comments from anybody in the audience, plus doing some poetry, spoken word. So tomorrow's kind of variety night, but definitely based a lot on history. And then we have 2 full days. So we're only at halfway after that. So a lot in store for everybody. Excited to share with you all. Today's been a kind of like a roller coaster. A lot of things that was said really hit emotionally with me, especially over the last few hours, and just seeing where everybody's at after a couple of years basically being in lockdown. And we did this a year ago, and that was like not even near this time now, where we've gone through so much, and just seeing where people are at and what they want to share after having this experience where they've experienced like the depths of their own self, and also, as a lot of individuals have shared today, been really immersed in a dark night of the soul, so that information's been like that. Yeah, Rob,
it's been crazy. One of the things whenever you go through some of these events is you have these moments that are profound. And I remember coming to my first event, I had like 1 or 2 profound moments where it was like your ears tingle, your head vibrates, and it's like, I need to go deeper. What's there, right? But now that it's 2-3 years later, it's like every speaker gives me multiple profound moments where I'm like, I understand. We need to go into it. I need to figure it out, and then I need to immerse myself in it. And that has been happening all day today. Yes. All day.
I feel like a lot of us have checked ourselves and have realized that it's game time. You know what I mean? It's Absolutely. Time to step up and to be our authentic version of ourselves, because the world around us, there's a lot of shifts happening. I'm not going to say, because to some people, they might not see it as chaos. Some people, they might not feel the division, but all I could say is there's a lot of shifts and changes going on, and we can all agree upon that, right? And Absolutely. And within that, where are we going to be on the other side of it all? And what this event's about is what we want to choose, where we want to choose to go.
Absolutely. Right? And when you're authentic with yourself, you just become this conduit for energy. It flows through you and onto the next person. It truly does, because as I've been going to things like Clubhouse and all these other places, I find all the people that we do presentations with and events with on all these different platforms, and it resonates, and it brings the community. The community becomes greater and greater and greater and greater. And I think that we're on a nonstop course, and we're going to touch everybody. That's right.
Seriously,
That's right.
bro. Yeah. All right, everybody. So one last plug for if you want to join the conference, the quickest link is ascensionconference.com, ascensionconference.com. Sign up for free or by donation. Now, as I said earlier, we do have like 700 plus individuals streaming in right now. So let's go ahead and do something collective, as a collective intention setting or a meditation, to just send out more harmonious frequencies for just not the specifics, but just for the betterment of all humanity, how that will manifest. We can set our intention on the upliftment and the betterment of all humanity. Let's just set that together. So I'm going to do a spoken word piece, a little poem that's more of a meditative piece as we phase out. And I invite everybody who would like to, please do close your eyes, and let's just be in this energy and just listen to the words and the frequency and see what that cultivates within you. And let's send that frequency and that signal out into the universe. And the universe is the world's largest Xerox machine. It reflects back whatever you put up there. So if you throw that energy up there, the universe is just going to send you more of what you sent up. You throw that negativity up there, the hatred up there, the universe is going to create your fractal version of that for you. If we send that beautiful love vibration up there, that's what we're going to get. So again, I invite everybody who would like to, please do close your eyes, and let's just take a few deep breaths in and out of our nose, maybe about 3 deep breaths, and just center ourselves, become present, and just wash away all of the experiences except for this now moment. So close your eyes and inhale through the nose. Inhale through the mouth. Exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose. Deep inhale. And let it go. One more deep inhale, filling up your lungs. And exhale. Keep your eyes closed and listen to the frequency of the spoken word as you breathe normally, in and out, in and out. Meditate and levitate. Waves of frequencies resonate higher. I'm connected to the provider, source of cosmic energy. We will be one single entity, expansion remedied. Oneness must breathe, exhale and let free. Consciousness to be, experiences of you and me. Souls of interdimensional beings to feel, hear, and see this third dimensional planetary existence. All time can be found in one instance. In this realm of linearity, atoms in anarchy, quantum polarity, the epitome of creation, facing our egos, acquiring patience, waiting to let go of our nations and join the federation of souls that will take us to the fifth world, and join the federation of souls that will take us to the fifth world, and join the federation of souls as we enter the fifth world. I invite you to take a deep breath in and then send that signal out of your heart into the cosmos, through the entire planet, into the solar system, into the galaxy, into the universe, into the multiverse. The frequency of love, the frequency of gratitude. All right, everybody. I invite you to open up your eyes whenever you're ready. And that's it. That's a wrap for today. Brother Rob, thank you so much, man.
Thank
It's
you,
been
brother. That was
amazing.
incredible. My hairs are standing up in the back of my neck, man. It was awesome. Awesome.
Mhm. Thank you, man. And everybody, we will see you tomorrow, bright and early, or unless you're in Sydney or London, I guess it's not so early. But we're going to go ahead and send you another email tomorrow morning for the link to join, and another one the next day, and the next day. So every morning you will have an email with the link. However, just in case you do not get it or do not find it, remember that the link for joining this Zoom room is the same exact link every single day. The Zoom room, the same exact link every day, so you can use the same email. And if you're on YouTube, you can go ahead and subscribe and then just come back there. Love you all so much. Have a beautiful evening. See you guys later.
See you later, everybody.